Hello, everyone, and welcome back again to Learn with Your Brains. I'm still your instructor, Dr. Don, and today we're going to learn something about functions in Python. Now, we're going to learn functions and lambda functions. I've seen a lot of programmers who don't talk about this a lot. Like they talk about functions, but they don't talk purposely about lambda function and what is useful. So in this lesson or this tutorial, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the functions of Python and the lambda function. Now, what is a function? It's just a block of code which only returns or runs when it's called, yeah? So you can pass data parameters to that function so that after that, the function can return a data as a result. So enough of talking. Let's try to practice what I'm trying to tell you right now. Okay. Now, in Python, function is just defined using a keyword like, let's say we have a lot of keyword like and, or, not in, as in, like in the previous tutorial, as I showed you about those keywords. By functions, we use a keyword called def, this, okay? Which means we are trying to define a function. So let's take our home television and a remote. The remote operates the television for us. So the remote itself has a lot of functions on it, and it does everything we try to tell it to do. So if you want to see the TV on, you just click on that red button on your remote, and the TV comes on. When you click on maybe next, it moves. When it's in volume up, it moves. So those volume up, volume down, it has been programmed and they have a specific function for it. So if you want to lower it, it tries to lower. You want to increase it, it's increase. So that is what functions. So everything you have has a function of how it operates. Okay. So to define a function, we use the def, then we create our function. So let's say this is my function. Okay. Define my function. Then you need to bring curly braces, then you try to define a function. So in this, we are trying to print something out. Let's say, welcome back to the best Python course. Okay, just type this message, welcome back to the best Python course. Okay, so with this, now let's try to run our code. Now look here. You see, we have an empty message on our console. Why? I told you when creating a function, anytime you create a function, you need to call it, okay? So it's like you having the remote. It will be holding you, but if you don't call by pressing it, it will never work. It has the function to increase the volume of your television, but if you don't press it, it's not going to work. I hope you understand the scenario here. Yeah, so before this will be able to print on our screen, we need to call the function which we define, which is my function. So it's as simple as that. All you need to do is let's type my function just like this. Now the function we created here, we've called it here. So now when we run our code, we see our message being printed on the screen like welcome back to the best Python. I think I did a mistake here. I can correct it here. Let's try to change it. Yeah, perfect. Then let's run the code again. Perfect. Now, welcome back to the best Python course. I need to add this on the planet. Yeah. Perfect. Let me run again. Welcome back to the best Python course on the planet. So we created our function and we called our what function. As simple as that. Now, in functions too, we have something we call parameters and what argument. We are going to talk about this. Now, most people or most programmers have or had some don't really know the difference between parameters and argument. So I'm going to show you all the meaning of this in this tutorial or this lesson. So we pass information into our function as an argument. Okay. Now let me give you an example. Let me delete this. No, I'm not going to delete this. Let me comment it because we are still in the best Python course. Perfect. We are not going to use this line. So let me bring it down here. Okay, perfect. Now we have defined our function. Then I want to pass in a parameter here. Let's say FAN, which is first name. Okay. Now this is what we call parameter when you're talking about functions in Python. Anything that is passed through this function here is what we call parameter. And when we call the function, we need to pass what? An argument. Now, this is why people get confused. This is a parameter and this is argument. But most programmers see this as argument, this also as an argument, this as a parameter, this as a parameter, which is not the right way. So this is a parameter. So you see parameter f name. Perfect. And where we will pass our what? Name. We've already called the function. So what do we need to be able to display? Okay. So we want to display our first name. So we are going to pass our first name right here by calling it. Okay. So let's say first name, let's type in Messi. Yeah, perfect. Now we can create a print function. Then f name first. Then we concatenate. Okay, just let's leave it like that. I just want to print the first name which I pass it. So when we run this code, you should see Messi printed on the screen. What is happening here? Now this is our parameter. So you can put different parameters, maybe first name, comma, last name, blah blah blah, and the rest. Then after that, you call your function here in your code. My function, which is this one. Then you pass in what you want to display on the screen. So this is the information. This is my first name. I'm passing through this parameter, which I got initiated here. Then I'll print that parameter out as my final result. That's why we're able to print our name just here for you to see on the screen. So you can even add a lot of parameter here. Let's say comma, last name, LNME. Yeah, last name. Then after this, in your function, we can add out comma here. Then this will also represent last name as, let's say, Dr. Don. Perfect. Okay. So now we define our function. This is our first name, which is representing this. Then we had this representing this. So we need to concatenate plus LNA. Perfect. So you could see when we didn't type the LM, this was dim. It didn't show that it was active. But the moment we call it and try to print it, it came active. So now when we print, we need to see Messi, Dr. Don. So let's run our code. Now it's out Messi, Dr. Don. But as I told you when we started our lesson, you need to always try to give what space between whatever you are doing here. So we can add a space here. One colon, no double quote, yeah, double quote. Okay, so now let's try to see whether we could create a space here, so that this space, there will be a space between Messi and Dr. Don. Let's run the code and let's see. Yeah, so now we have Messi, then we have Dr. Don, or space out. So yeah, I can just bring him back. And let's run the code again. And now you could see that we have what? Messi, Dr. Don. As simple as that. Now, We also have something I want to show you, which is called the arbitrary argument. So this is an argument, this is a parameter. Now, how do you use the arbitrary argument here? Or the argument parameter, sorry, how do you use the arbitrary argument? Yeah. So now, imagine we have just one parameter here. Let's say, let's delete this. Let me just write, let's say a kid here. Let's say kids, yeah. Then what we are going to do here is we have kids here, but we have a lot of arguments here. Okay, we have Messi, we have Dr. Don here. Let's add another one. Let's say Dockers. Perfect. Okay. So what is happening here? I told you that your parameter should always match with your argument. Okay. But this is the situation where we have case here as just one parameter, but we have a lot, like 1, 2, 3 arguments here. So there's going to be a problem. Let's try to run the code. You're going to have a lot of, say, type error. My function takes one positional argument, okay, but 3 were given. So this is argument which will given, like 3 were given instead of 1. So it means it needs to match Messi to the kids. But how do we solve this issue? This is where we call something arbitrary. Okay. So to solve this issue, just add an asterisk, or what we call an asterisk, or mostly in operator is a multiplication asterisk to this. Then what is going to happen is when we print, let's try to print something on the screen. Let's say the youngest child in this list, the youngest child is case. Then now we can select the person we want in this. So let's say we want the second child, which is Dr. Don. So now when we run our code, what is happening? Indexing, okay, this was 2. So index of 0, 1, and 2. So 2, say the youngest child is what Dockers. So with this asterisk, we're able to match this parameter with all this argument. So this is what we call the arbitrary argument or parameter right here in functions in Python. Okay, so when I do 1 and run, it's going to select Dr. Don. And when I index at 0, it's going to take Messi. So as I told you, always try to bring a space between what you are trying to write here. So I think there was no space here. Let me create a space. Now when you run here, the youngest child is missing. So this is what we call the arbitrary argument in when you are dealing with functions. Now I want to also show you what we call the keyword argument when you are working with functions. This lesson is all about functions, and I'm trying to go down to your level to explain everything you need to know about functions. And that when you are working on a project, as I told you, you're able to get familiar with it. So how do we define this keyword argument? So let me delete this. Or let me just hold this. Then try to change our parameter here. Let's do this. Let's say child 1, or child 3, child 2, then child 1. Perfect. So we have child 3, child 2, and child 1. Now, the youngest child is, let's say child 3. It needs to print child 3 for us. Perfect. Now here, this is where we use something called what? The keyword argument. So if you've gone through the lesson we did about dictionaries, we did a key value pairs, okay, which may be the model of the car. Is to be Mustang, and the year it was made was in 1967. So that was a key value. But in function here, we say the keyword what? Argument, okay? So how do we do that? When you call your function, now you give a specific, okay, child here to a specific name here. So we can say child 1. We can copy this, or we can just write it straight here. Best is to copy, so that will be fast. So control copy, then match this to Messi. Okay, then let's say, let me try to type so that it will be fast. Child 2 should be equal to Dr. Don. Then child 3 will be equal to Dorcas. So what are we doing here? First, if we are supposed to print this without giving the keyword, it will print Messi, Dr. Don, and Dorcas. As Messi as child 3, Dr. Don as child 2, then Dorcas as child 1. By here, I've done a keyword argument here, which means I've merged child 1 to Messi, child 2 to Dr. Don, and child 3 to Dorcas. Okay, so here when I print, the youngest child is child 3. Let me take out this in this. Yeah, child 3 is going to print what I would marked, which is Dorcas. So let's try to run our code and see whether everything is all right. So now you see the youngest child is what? It's Dorcas here, because we map a keyword argument here, which is child 3 is mapping to Dorcas, child 2 to Dr. Don, and child 1 to here. So when I change this to 1, then I run. Now the youngest child has changed to what? Messi. This is what we call out the keyword argument. Now, what if I want to print a last name of this? But I have a first name as argument and last name as argument. But in our parameter, I have only one thing. This is what we call what? The arbitrary keyword argument, or the arbitrary keyword. Yeah. So the first one was just arbitrary argument, but this is arbitrary keyword. So you implement the same procedure. So let me delete this and just type in star kids. Okay, star or asterisk kids. No, kids. It's part kids. So I'm going to explain things to you. Then in my print console, I just type in the youngest child last name is concatenate. Then in bracket, I just put in L name. Perfect. And in our function, we are going to write F name to Messi, and let's delete this. L name. Yeah, perfect here. So now look at this function. It holds only one parameter but two keyword dot argument. So how do you solve this? The first one we use is just one star, because we are just dealing with just parameter and argument. But this time we are dealing with a parameter and a keyword argument. So instead of one asterisk, we use double asterisk for this issue. So star here. And now when we run our code, There's a problem here. Where is the problem from? Let's try to solve this. You say what? Line 9 in the modulo. Okay. Well, name. It's a what? Okay, name error. Name L. Name is not defined. Okay, so let's try to solve this. Oh, yeah. You needed to put in an asterisk because you know why there's a problem here? Because it sees this as a variable instead of string. Hope it's clear. So let's try to put it in a string. This is what we are going to face most of the time when you're working. Yeah. So now it's back. Everything is normal. Let's try to run again. It's still okay. So what? Type error can only concatenate string. Can only concatenate string, not list. I think there was a problem. Concatenate string instead of type error can only concatenate string, not list. So you see this one as list and on line 5 my function. Okay, so let's try to solve this. There any problem? Like we are using it. We try to load this and let's see if the string is talking about. Okay, perfect. So the youngest child last name is L name. So there was a problem when we are trying to solve this issue here. It says we can't concatenate a string, which means we were not able to. We didn't define any list to store that. Okay. The problem is trying to give us here. But what I'm trying to tell you here is anytime you have issue like this, make sure you have this being set to your name right here. For there will be like you see a lot of errors right here. So let's try to see whether we can make sure this works. So the youngest child name is L name. Here's L name, here's L name. When we change this to okay, double. Let's bring back our asterisk. And now L name here should be. I do a mistake of not adding all. Then it's more. Let's see what you're saying. Problems. Don't need this. Can only concatenate string. Oh. Okay, so where the problem is? You see, it doesn't know where this last name is coming from. But we also forgot that we have what? This parameter here. Okay. So that is where the issue is coming from. So it's a type error can only concatenate string. Okay. So let's try to solve it. We didn't bring what? This parameter here for it to be able, for our function to be able to access that parameter. I think that was where the problem was coming from. So let's try to solve it, kids. And now it should start working. Let me see. Let's try again. Yeah, perfect. With the youngest child name is da. Yeah. So you see how when you're doing programming, you can face this kind of issue. So always try to read through your code. Every programmer always make mistake, but you need to take some time for you to be able to dilute and know where the issue or the error is coming from. Okay, so if you're able to run through your course well, you'll be able to solve issues like this. And I think after some few seconds or minutes, you're able to know where the issue was coming from. Yeah, because we just assign a keyword and call a function where we give a parameter. So it needed the parameter to be able to access our last name from what our argument. That was what it was trying to do, which brought a lot of errors through the code, and you'll be able to correct it. That is how I want you to think as a programmer when you're doing this kind of course. So now let's do what we call a default parameter. Imagine, let me delete this. Let me delete all this. Okay. Then in our parameter, we set something like country. Then I assign the country to, you can say Ghana, a country. Yeah. Perfect. Now I define my function and I set a parameter. This is what we call a default parameter, which means it cannot be changed. Okay. So after this, when you call the function, then I print a message to the screen. I am from, let me space out and concatenate this. As I told you, you can use the formatted string to do this, but because some of you are new here, we will go straight to some process. So what is happening here? I define and I set this to be what? A default parameter, which means this was the country, or this was the argument I was supposed to pass here, and now I've set it here. So if I run this code, see, I am from Ghana. Straight up, it's going to display that. But if I want to pass another country, I can do so. But now I need to just type in my function, then pass in the country we from. Let's say Brazil. Then we run it. You see, it continues. I'm from Ghana, which is a default. I'm also from Brazil, so you can continue. You can create different. You can call the function, then pass in through different countries. So we can add another country to my function, then pass in another country. Let's say USA. Let's run our code. Then we have Ghana, Brazil, USA, and it continues like that. So that is how we use what the default parameter. So you can set a country. Now, this is where sometimes when you go to a website, it has a default. No matter what, you need to choose yes. No matter what, you need to choose no. So this is the function behind those codes, so that no matter what you do, you need to choose one thing. I hope you are making sense throughout this course, and you know you are getting something valuable from it. Then we just come where we need to pass an argument. Okay, imagine you create a function with, let's see, let me delete this, then type in, let's say, food. Okay, right here. Now you can send any data type of argument to the function, whether it's a number, list, or a dictionary, and to be treated as the same as data type inside that function. So let's say, example, if you send a list of argument, it will still be a list when it reaches the function. So let me show you an example. So we've created the food here. Now, because you've done the for loops and the if statement, I'm going to use for loops for you to understand something here about how we pass a list as an argument. Okay, so we have this for x in food, which is this one, okay, which is our parameter. Remember to bring the color. Print x. Okay, now let's say we have created a list here of fruits from our lesson we did previously. Fruits is equal to, let's pass in the list, which is apple, banana, and cherry. Okay, so now this is our list of fruits. I know you've learned list, so now you can understand what a list is. Okay, now when you call my function, this is where we say we can pass this list as an argument in our function. So we created this as fruit with all this as a list, and now you know this is just one parameter. So we can pass these fruits here as what? Another one's as an argument, because a parameter will match with an argument here. So when you pass in fruit, this all list is going to be printed on the screen. So let's try. So fruits. So perfect. So this is what I was saying, like passing what a list as an argument. So we pass this list of fruit as an argument here, but this is a parameter which is food. It's going to display this. Let's try to run the code and let's see what happens. So now you see apple, banana, and the cherry has been what printed onto our screen. As simple as that. Now, with all this, how can we return a value to the function? It's as simple. So to let a function to return like a value, you just need to use what we call the return statement. It's as simple as that. So let me try to delete this. Then let's define a function called, let's say, maybe x. Okay. Then we return 5 plus 3. Then let's print my function. Let's pass in, let's say, 3. Oh, I did a mistake. Instead of x, I rather put the 3 rather than here. Okay. So this is what is happening here. We define my function as x. Okay. Then we use the return value to return all what we want to return on the screen. So we return 5, and we use what arithmetic operator plus, and what is x? So here's a parameter, and we printed my function, which passed through this argument tree. So when we print this, we should get 8 on the screen, because 5 plus the x, which is the parameter here, and we pass that 3 as an argument to what the parameter, which will represent here. We should get what 8 on the screen. So let's run our code and see what happens. So perfect. Now we return or what the value, which is 5 plus 3. So when you change this to minus, we should get 2 on the screen. Yeah, because 5 minus 3, you're going to get what 2. So it's as simple as that. And as I showed you, when you just declare this and you don't want errors, okay, you just use what the pass statement. So when you run, nothing what will happen right here. Okay, so this is what I wanted you to know about Python functions. Now, I told you are doing 2 things, which is what the main functions of Python and what we call the lambda function. Now, in lambda, it's just a small like function which takes number of arguments, but has only one expression. Now let me explain that to you. We delete this. So working on lambda function, imagine we have a variable x is equal to, then we use that keyword lambda, okay? A plus 10, print x 5. Run. What is happening here? I told you it's a small what? It's a small statement or a small function here, okay? It's a keyword with a small function which can be able to what? Take a number of arguments, but can be or can have only one expression. So this is our lambda function. It's a keyword and it took only one argument, okay? Or let's say a parameter here, but this will be our argument. Then it gives us only one expression. So here can put a lot of argument or parameter, but it can give us only one expression, and that expression is what is going to print out. So we print our variable which stores this as a lambda function. Now when I'm to increase this to, let's say, b, this is another parameter, which means I need to add another one here. It's 6. Now let's change this to maybe multiplication because it's two variables or two parameters, sorry. Okay, so let's multiply this by b. Okay, so what is happening here? X, which is the variable, stores this function, and these are what? The parameter a, b, and this is what? Our argument. So a matches with 5, b matches with 6, and this is the expression we want on the screen. This is what s is going to be printed. So a multiplied by b, which means 5 multiplied by 6, we should get what? 30 on our screen. So let's try to run and let's see what happens. So perfect, we had what? 30 here. So you can use different arguments in lambda using the lambda function, but it just gives you only one expression. So you can add and add and add a lot of parameters or argument here. So you can do c, d, okay, which means you can do a times b plus, let's say, c minus d. Okay, perfect. So it will be a times b plus c minus d, which means here you can do it like 7. Let's bring a comma here, 7, then 8. Then I'll only print, let's see what happens, at 29. Why? Because when you use BODMAS to calculate this expression, bracket of division, multiplication, addition, so 5 times 6 is 30. This has been off. 13 plus c, 7 is 37. 37 minus 8 will give you 29, which d stands for 8. So this is for the lambda function is all about. So somebody will ask, why do we use the lambda function? The power of this lambda function is always used as an animal function inside, and you come across this when you do more about like something about machine learning, because in machine learning we mostly use this type of function to match up some stuff right there. Okay, so with this you can define a function and use this lambda function in it. Let me show you one example. So let's hold this, let me do this, and let me try to define a function. Define my function. Let's see my fun. Okay, then let's pass in n as our parameter. Now inside the function we can return a lambda. Okay, and with this lambda, let's say this is one argument, then a multiply by n. Perfect. Let me delete this. So what is happening here? We define a function n, we are returning using the lambda function as a. So this is what argument which is expressed here, and it's multiplying our function here. So now we can create an object, let's say a new, then we call our function, which is function where we are going to pass what our argument here. So let's say 2. Perfect. And now when we are printing my new, we pass in what our lambda expression. So what is going on here? We first define my function and then return lambda expression a. Now, as we did the function, I always store in a variable. So that variable is being what my new, which in the other video we store it as x. Okay, so that is the new which will hold out this a value. Okay, so this will match up with this. That is where we pass this, okay, to it. So my function, which is this, we are calling because it has already had a parameter, we pass in the argument to it. So the lambda here, what it's doing is, I told you it has only one expression. So this a, which is this lambda a, which matches up to, store in this as a new value, is expressed here. So this a represents this number we pass in, and this my function which we called also pass through an argument to this end position. And now when we run our code, we get what 22, because a, which is this, multiply by what 2, which is the n in our parameter, will give us what 22. So you see how you can use this lambda function, because as it takes what a number of arguments and expressing just one expression, and it being a small anonymous function, to be able to solve a lot of issues for us. So this is a function, but this is what an anonymous small function within the function itself, to be able to solve these issues for us. Okay, so that is how you can use what a lambda to be able to, instead of doing a whole lot, you can use lambda as a small anonymous to also do the same thing. Okay, but when you're working with this, you should always make sure it has what a variable is being stored in, okay, before it can do its operation. So that is all what I want you to know about functions and lambda functions. So let me give you one last example so that we bring this to an end. So imagine you have to summarize an argument of, let's say, a, b, and c. Okay, so I'm not going to type. So we say x is equal to lambda. Okay, then we come our argument or parameters we use here. By lambda, they tell me that an argument. Okay, a, b, and c. But and now we need to use colon to express it as a plus b plus c. Perfect. Then now what do you need to do? Print x, which is the variable stored there, then out a parenthesis and pass in those parameters to our argument here, which will be 5, let's say 7, and let's say 8. It's as simple as this. So when we run our code, it's going to be 5 plus 7, which is 12, plus 8. So a to 5, 7 to b, and 8 to c. And it gave us 20. So this is all about lambda function and function itself in Python. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. It has been quite long, but I just wanted to explain to the meaning or the maximum level for you to understand all the idea. Because Lambda, most of programmers who do even tutorial, they don't talk more about Lambda functions. They just talk about just functions in Python. But since you now know the real function, how to use it, and the Lambda function, you know how that if you have this, you can have a lot of arguments in Lambda function, but it's just only one expression needed. I hope it's clear. I'll see you in the upcoming tutorial. Take care. I'm your co-instructor, Dr. Dan from and with your Prince.